The Prime Minister meets the premiers to talk Trump and tariffs. And blowing through the Christmas budget? This is Now You Know. I'm Rob Snow.
Deeper than the headlines.
The answers you need to know.
This is Now You Know with Rob Snow on News Radio.
The two big issues in political Ottawa these days are the threat of tariffs from the incoming Trump administration and the Liberals' relief plan for inflation-weary Canadians. On the first issue, Donald Trump's threat to impose an across-the-board 25% tariff on all Canadian exports to the United States, the Prime Minister met with all the premiers yesterday. And after the meeting, Chrystia Freeland emerged. The federal finance minister claimed it was all kumbaya, despite a statement from Ontario Premier Doug Ford, released after the meeting, that the Trudeau Liberals were, quote, slow to react and stuck on the back foot.
I can only speak to the conversation we had, and the conversation we had was very positive. We were very united, and we all really agreed that right now what Canada needs is for us to work together, that we need to be strong, we need to be smart, we need to be united. And let's be clear, our country is facing a significant challenge. We have opportunities as well, and I really believe that we can meet this challenge successfully. But I am also absolutely certain that the way we meet this challenge successfully is by presenting a united front, especially when it comes to our conversations with our American neighbors.
Among Trump's demands, secure the border, stop the flow of illegal drugs, and stop the flow of illegal immigration. In Quebec, Premier François Legault has been pleading with the Trudeau government for years to get a handle on the immigration situation. Just this week, the Journal de Montréal reported on a spike in irregular border crossings at Saint-Bernard-de-la-Colle. The newspaper reported 80 people crossed from the United States into Quebec seeking asylum just this past weekend. And the paper said there was no sign of law enforcement of any kind. After the meeting yesterday, Premier Legault said he didn't hear a clear plan from Prime Minister Trudeau on what he plans to do about the situation at the border, echoing comments he made earlier this week in Quebec City.
Since 2017 that we have to do something. Remember what happened at Roxham. So it goes both ways. We have to secure the border.
So basically you're saying to Donald Trump he's right?
But I'm saying that Mr. Trump said it very often during the campaign that he would fight against illegal immigration. So that's what he's doing right now.
And you're scared about what can happen to the economy of Quebec?
Of course, if you put a tariff of 10% or 25% on all exportation, we have from Quebec to United States $87 billion of exportation and only $43 billion of importation. So we cannot start a war, and we have to do everything we can to not have these tariffs.
Back in Ottawa, the point man for the Trudeau Liberals on the border issue is the Public Safety Minister, Dominic LeBlanc, who said border security isn't a one-way street.
We believe unequivocally that the Canadian border is secure, that we have the people in place, we have the technology in place to assure Canadians and Americans. This is a binational challenge. It's not, none of this is a one-way street. Canadians have every interest in ensuring the integrity and security of the border. That's a foremost responsibility for our government. And that the Americans share that concern is also very normal and has resulted in decades of daily collaboration. What I think is important now, and the premiers spoke to this as well, is showing Canadians visibly and demonstrably the presence of law enforcement at our borders, talking about the good work that the federal policing units of the RCMP with partners in provinces and municipalities do around drug trafficking, around fentanyl, around some of the drug labs that have been taken down and organized crime.
Then there's Jagmeet Singh, the leader of the New Democrats. He launched into a blistering attack of Mr. Trudeau, saying Mr. Trudeau has failed to take seriously the threat of a second Trump presidency.
My priority is simple. I want us to do everything possible to defend Canadian jobs. I want to see the Liberal government take this seriously. I think Justin Trudeau has not taken it seriously. He's been saying, don't panic, everything's fine, nothing to see here. I think he's wrong. I think it requires serious action and taking it seriously. So where's the plan? What's the plan to defend Canadian jobs?
Now, once again, it's interesting to hear this sort of talk from the NDP leader because there is going to be a confidence vote in the House of Commons tonight in this Liberal government. That vote is about the 2-month break on the GST, on some selected essentials and other Christmas-related items. And what is Mr. Singh going to do when he has a chance to defeat the Liberals? The Liberals he routinely calls a failure. He's going to vote with the Liberals.
We want to get the GST holiday done for Canadians right away, and so that those late sittings allow for the time to make that happen. Now we are demanding that the GST holiday happen, and we're demanding that the Liberal government put in place a separated GST holiday first, and then fix the checks to include seniors, people living with disabilities before we support that.
As we hinted at yesterday, this affordability package that the Liberals proposed 1 week ago is now going to be split in two. The GST holiday will likely get passed through the House of Commons today, come into effect December 14th. The Conservatives are going to vote against that. The $250 rebate checks that are supposed to go out next year, that's all on hold now, while the Liberals negotiate with the NDP on expanding the eligibility for those checks. But so confident are the Liberals that a 2-month GST holiday and $250 in the bank will turn around their political fortunes that one Liberal MP broke out in song on the floor of the House of Commons yesterday. Cape Breton Liberal MP Jamie Battiste.
If we make it through December is one of my favorites, about the difficult times that families experience during the holiday season. On December 14th, our government will help families by pausing the tax on essential items like groceries, toys, children's clothing, holiday goodies, and even Christmas trees. But Mr. Speaker, the leader of the opposition, he's a mean one, Mr. Grinch, and he doesn't want your Christmas tax break. That is, unless it benefits his wealthy oil and gas donors. Yeah. And while Conservatives on the naughty list still refuse to get security checks, on this side of the House, we're making sure Canadians don't have a blue Christmas. Across Canada, we're giving smart policy instead of cheap slogans, bringing joy to children, and helping restaurants thrive, all to make sure that it's the most wonderful time of the year. And Mr. Speaker, that's something to sing about.
Don't quit your day job. In a recent interview, the former governor of the Bank of Canada, David Dodge, called the Liberals' GST holiday and the plan for $250 checks, quote, a bit of candy with borrowed money, a bad package, a little bit today, for a lot of pain tomorrow. I'm Rob Snow. This is Now You Know. This is News Radio.
You have questions
Now You Know with Rob Snow has the answers.
on News Radio.
He's our friend on the right side of things. Michael Taube is back with us, syndicated columnist, speechwriter for former Prime Minister Stephen Harper, getting in touch with him just before he settles in for some American Thanksgiving football. How are you, Michael?
Yeah, you're damn right. I will be. But I'm doing well. How are you doing?
I'm great. Look, let's talk about Trump and tariffs and Team Canada. Ontario Premier Doug Ford, I think he's always been underestimated as a politician, and I have my differences with some of the decisions that his government has made, like sending people $200 checks before an election, for an example.
Sure.
But I think, in my own opinion, I believe in the last week we have seen him take on an important leadership role since this Trump tariff threat. You have known the Ford family for a long time. How do you think Doug Ford can contribute to Team Canada?
Yeah, I've known the Ford family for a long time. Not necessarily that we're buddy-buddy. We're not. But I remember, I worked in the Ontario legislature when his father, Doug Ford Sr., was an MPP and was working for the old Crime Control Commission, if I'm dating myself a bit. So it goes way, way back. But yeah, I met Doug and Rob Ford many years ago, so I've known them for a long time. And I know what they're capable of, and I knew what they could do. We saw it with Rob Ford, the late mayor of Toronto, and we see it also with Ontario Premier Doug Ford. There's a formula to it. You and I have talked about it. It's a combination of a variety of things. You know, his success has been weighted in conservative ideas, sort of a populist type nature, and retail politics. In other words, how you sell yourself to anyone, whether it be a doctor or a garbage man. You basically put everything in between. So in other words, how do you sell yourself to the general public, and how do you propose ideas and issues that not just one small select group will find interesting, but all will find interesting? And certainly while that is a successful formula that any politician should use, the Ford family has been extremely good at it, especially with the retail politics side. And that's where I think, in many ways, for the Team Canada approach, you said, that's where I believe that Doug Ford, more than almost any other premier in the country, is actually beneficial. When he comes out and champions certain things, whether it be protecting the Canadian economy or ensuring that the tariffs don't hurt Ontario and the other Canadian provinces, and comes up with ideas and solutions onto how do we deal with it, how do we speak the type of language and, create an environment that will be beneficial to Canada, to find ways to work with President-elect Donald Trump of the United States, and so on. I think that basically Doug Ford's career and the way that he and his family have looked at politics, look at economics, and try to create ideas and concepts that appeal to the common man and any other person as well who's interested in sort of a small c conservative/populist approach. When you put all that together, it's very, very beneficial when you're dealing with Donald Trump, who obviously we've talked about a million times, but I don't regard him as a modern conservative or Republican, or not even a traditional one either. He is someone who obviously holds some conservative principles. He obviously leans to the Republican Party on some issues, but he marches the beat of his own drum, and he does things as he sees fit, including using tariffs sort of as a political tool, a negotiating tactic, a bargaining chip, whatever you wish to use for it.
Right.
Doug Ford is not the same as Donald Trump, but he has sort of that populist overtone where the two of them can actually work together, and I think work together quite well, but also that Doug Ford would be important or certainly an important component of the Team Canada model with the other premiers, and he'd be able to give a lot of ideas that I think would be useful to Prime Minister Justin Trudeau.
Okay, very interesting. Look, when we come back, we're going to talk about the decline in liberal parties in Canada. When you look back at 2015, when Justin Trudeau assumed office as Prime Minister of Canada, he had a lot of allies around. Not so much anymore. 9 years later, it's a very different circumstance, and certainly very telling, I think, what happened in Nova Scotia this week, where the Liberal vote just collapsed in Nova Scotia, and BC Premier Tim Houston really used to great effect Justin Trudeau as a foil. So we'll talk about that with Michael Taube when we come back. Syndicated columnist, speechwriter for former Prime Minister Stephen Harper. This is Now You Know. I'm Rob Snow on News Radio.
No question goes unasked or unanswered.
Now You Know with Rob Snow returns on News Radio.
Back with Michael Taube, syndicated columnist, speechwriter for former Prime Minister Stephen Harper. Let's talk about the decline in liberal parties in Canada. When Justin Trudeau came to office in 2015, 7 of the 10 Canadian premiers led liberal parties of one sort or another. 2 other premiers were New Democrats. There was just one lonely conservative out there. His name was Brad Wall in Saskatchewan, the Saskatchewan Party. Here we are 9 years later, the end of 2024. There are a grand total of 2 liberal premiers, and one of them was just elected, Susan Holt in New Brunswick. You have Premier Fury is the Premier of Newfoundland, a liberal, but opposes Mr. Trudeau on things like the carbon tax and the emissions cap. We just saw the Liberal vote collapse in Nova Scotia, and Tim Houston campaign against Justin Trudeau to great effect. I wonder how much of this is a Justin Trudeau problem? What would you say?
I think it's a bit of both. It certainly is Justin Trudeau, based on, if you look at opinion polls and other polling data, Justin Trudeau's popularity level has declined to somewhere between 25 to 27% overall, depending on which poll you look at. That means that almost roughly or exactly 3/4 of the country doesn't like him for some reason. You know, in some cases they may not like him a little bit. Other cases they may loathe him. Obviously a poll doesn't display that one way or the other, but it means that he's not held in high esteem by a lot of Canadians, which means that most people who go out to vote are not pleased with his leadership. And again, it's not surprising. I've said it a million times. I'll say it probably a million more before he's gone. He's been a mediocre and ineffective leader. He has been a political lightweight since literally the beginning, and he's been a national and international embarrassment. I've used lots of descriptions. Others have used their own descriptions. The end result is there's just been nothing beneficial or positive about this prime minister, and anyone who's actually said it is obviously just fudging his record, which is a mile long just in terms of pit holes, mistakes, screw-ups. Two visits to the ethics commissioner. Is almost caught on a third one as well. It wasn't too far away. Just a lot of bad stuff. So Justin Trudeau is part of it for sure. But the other part of it as well is the Liberal brand. And I think we have to say that in fairness, Rob, because not every Liberal is necessarily tied to Justin Trudeau. Yes, they're dragged down by him like an anchor. There's no question of that. But the Liberal brands, much like the way politics works, it works in cycles, and the political pendulum swings and shifts in different directions. Right. The Liberal brand is not in vogue right now at all. A lot of people look at Liberals, whether it be the Liberal Prime Minister, Liberal Premiers, or just Liberals, in various other levels, including municipal politics, and they don't see good ideas coming out of them. They see them basically thinking that in many ways they still understand what the country is, what it represents, what it needs. But generally speaking, when they get into the reins of power, the hands of government, they don't know what they're doing, or they handle it so poorly that they turn off people within an election cycle or two or three. I think that the Liberal brand right now is about as low as it's been in a long time. It might even be a little bit lower right now. Certainly poll numbers show it, than when Michael Ignatieff got blasted away in the 2011 federal election and ended up with 34 seats overall. You can say that, well, Ignatieff's the complete cause and blame of it. No, it was the Liberal brand. Justin Trudeau was able to preserve it and protect it for a little while and brought it back within 4 years, but that was also largely because the Conservatives, under my old friend and boss, Stephen Harper, the former Prime Minister, had been in power for nearly 10 years, and unfortunately, those are the sorts of things that happen in politics. The voters get tired, they look away, they view different options.
Sure.
So Justin Trudeau and the Liberal brand together, in my opinion, Rob, are to blame for their decline, and it's hurting them badly.
Okay. Happy American Thanksgiving to you. Enjoy the football.
You too, my friend.
Yep. Thank you. Great to hear from you. Michael Taube, syndicated columnist, speechwriter for former Prime Minister Stephen Harper, with us every Thursday here on Now You Know. I'm Rob Snow. Our Newsday panel is just ahead here on News Radio.
Critical thinking is not dead.
Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Returns on News Radio. The Newsday panel.
And the gang's all here. Jordan Paquette, senior consultant, Blue Sky Strategy Group. He's in Ottawa. How are you?
Doing great, Rob. I'm actually down in the best island in Canada, though, here in Charlotte.
Oh, you are?
Today. I am.
You are?
Beautiful sunny day.
Good for you. And how's the weather?
Oh, it's beautiful. Beautiful sunny day here. It's getting a snowstorm tonight, but
okay.
It's just great to be back home.
Well, that's good for you. Glad to hear that. Jordan is typically in Ottawa, but he is from Prince Edward Island. Yes. Okay. Excellent. Excellent. Alex Creston, Vice President, Crestview Strategies. He's usually based out of the center of the universe, also known as Toronto, Ontario, Canada. How are you today?
I'm great. Always good in the center of the universe.
That's good. Good to hear from you. Well, let's talk about affordability. The GST holiday. The 2-month break from the GST likely to be voted on today. We know the Conservatives are a no, but the checks are not in the mail. In other words, the $250 rebate checks. What do you think of the decision, Alex, to have off the $250 rebate checks from the GST holiday? What do you think about that?
Look, I think that they are the government's in a position now to quickly on the fly figure out how to pass what they can pass. Look, they've been able to maybe just temporarily break the deadlock in the House and get this moved along, but it's sort of emblematic of a kind of a last minute seat of your pants planning when you're announcing something one day, changing the legislation the next day. This is not a good sign of a government that is in control.
Okay. Jordan, what are your thoughts on the splitting of these two measures?
Yeah, I don't think they had the votes, to be completely honest, with the GST issue, or sorry, the rebate check, or whatever we're calling it, the vote grab,
the vote buying scheme. Yes,
the vote buying scheme. I don't think they had the votes for it as it currently was, so they had to have it off. They want to get this GST holiday rebate out before Christmas, with the support of the NDP, and now you have NDP, including members of Justin Trudeau's own government, who are now either speaking out against the $250 checks or saying it has to be given to more people. I think there was one member of Parliament who said he was reprimanded for speaking out and threatened with consequences. So I think, to Alex's point, I think they are just kind of flying by the seat of the pants a bit here on this one. And really just trying to find out how to roll this out. They announced it without even consulting provinces, the initial GST measure, and now they're just trying to figure out how to get it through the House. So, agreeing with Alex here, that's not a good way to make policy.
Right. Now, eventually, they're going to have to work out some kind of agreement. I mean, you can't say everybody's going to get a $250 rebate check if you worked in 2023 and earned this much money, and then say, well, actually, nobody's going to get a check. So they're going to want to work out a deal with the New Democrats, I would think, or the Democrats and the Bloc, maybe, because the Bloc has been demanding better benefits for seniors. So what do you see ahead with the $250 rebate checks? Do you think the Liberals are going to capitulate and say, okay, then pensioners can qualify for it, and people who are on social assistance or disability stipends, they're going to qualify for it, and they're going to send checks to more people? Is that what you see ahead, Alex?
Well, it depends on if they need to, because there's sort of there's two options here. Either they do capitulate and come up with a solution that a couple of the opposition parties or just the NDP could get along with, or they don't, and they blame the NDP for holding the $250 checks away from all of those other people who would have received them, which is probably more people anyways. But that depends on how much do they want to get into a fight over this. How much do they care about how much money they're spending, which I don't think is much. Not that it's not much money. What I'm meaning is that they don't care that much.
Okay, interesting. What do you see ahead for this? There's obviously going to be some negotiation going on here. What do you think, Jordan? What do you think is going to happen?
Oh, I'm sure the eligibility will expand extensively by the time the government and the NDP are finished negotiating on this. They won't talk to the Bloc, because the Bloc wants to lower the income threshold, put it down to a lower bracket. But for everybody else, I can't see how this doesn't go with the government deciding to capitulate on the NDP's demands, giving it to people on disabilities, to seniors. Because I think from the start, this issue was not well thought through. And I think this entire issue will backfire on the Liberals. You're going to have some people that are going to be mad that they don't get the check. And you're going to have, frankly, $250, that's great for most people. I think, it might buy their grocery order, it'll help pay for heating. But at the same time, it's not going to suddenly drag people out of poverty. It's not going to suddenly solve the affordability crisis. And the other levers that government could be pulling and should be in a much more smarter way looking at, reducing regulatory burdens and tax burdens, they're not doing because they just think this is a quick vote getting scheme. And I do think that that's going to backfire in some form on them.
Yeah, I mean, it's essentially a repeat of the grocery rebate. That was just a year and a half ago, the grocery rebate. Let's listen to Pierre Poilievre did a news conference about this today, all kinds of questions about how he was going to vote on it. This is what Mr. Poilievre said today.
I thought you liked the idea of cutting taxes.
This isn't, that's why I'm opposed to this. This isn't a tax cut. This is an inflationary 2-month temporary tax trick that will drive up the cost of living. Even today, the food professor was out saying this measure will make food even more expensive. That's what happens when government dumps a bunch of cash into the country without creating more of what cash buys. We need tax relief that actually encourages the economy to produce more of the stuff cash buys.
Okay, I'm not sure that's his best comeback yet, but maybe he's still finding his footing on this. Certainly, the Liberals are going to love the fact that he's going to vote against it because he's the mean one, Mr. Grinch, as they've been saying all along. Does it hurt Poilievre? What do you think? Alex, what do you think?
No, this doesn't hurt
Okay.
Poilievre at all. No, I don't think. I think to the extent that Canadians that even pay attention to how opposition parties vote, I don't think that they're going to be too hung up on this one. I think Poilievre has defined himself enough as a tax fighter. My kids, obviously they listen to a good amount of talk radio, but regularly say, "Oh, things will be great." My 11 and 9-year-olds, things will be great after Pierre Poilievre axes the tax. Or, Dad, when's the Pierre Poilievre going to axe the tax? Pierre Poilievre's reputation as a tax axer is well established.
I don't know. There's a ready-made attack ad there, I guess, for the Liberals. So, Jordan, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, they're going to try, and I know they're hoping that he will vote against it, and rightly he is. But to Alex's point, I mean, his whole brand is about fighting higher taxes and bringing down the overall cost of things. This little temporary, and it is, Pierre Poilievre is quite right, this is an inflationary measure. You're going into one of the highest spending periods of the year. Prices are just going to end up going up, and then suddenly in February, that tax goes back on. So no, government might think that they're getting some brilliant win here. I think this is just a desperate move that they're trying to do and just trying to throw something else out there, trying to get the polls moving and get themselves stuck out of that 20% mode. But this isn't going to work.
Okay, we'll be right back. We'll talk about the Team Canada approach to battling the incoming Trump administration. It's the Newsday panel. You're on News Radio.
Now you know with Rob Snow continues on News Radio.
It's our Newsday panel today. Big issues happening in politics these days. Jordan Paquette, Senior Consultant, Blue Sky Strategy Group down in Prince Edward Island today. Alex Creston, Vice President, Crestview Strategy, and he is in Toronto. So the country is to have a Team Canada approach. We hear that nowadays. Team Canada. We have to be on Team Canada to deal with the threat of tariffs from the new Trump administration. But my question for you, Jordan Paquette, is Justin Trudeau the best choice to be the captain of Team Canada? What would you say?
Well, that's an interesting question because, I mean, we're looking at the Prime Minister right now who is nearing the end of his actual mandate. But he's struggling with an actual mandate to govern right now because he's extremely unpopular with Canadians, and he doesn't even really technically have the confidence of the House. I mean, legislation can't get through. He's sitting where he's at in the poll numbers, and most Canadians are kind of looking for what's going to be next and what's into the future. So having someone in Justin Trudeau's position of weakness right now is going to make it very, very difficult to negotiate with the Americans on a whole Team Canada approach. So I think this is going to renew calls, and we're starting to hear this in some corners now, that it should be incredibly important that we do have an election sooner than later to deal with some of these incoming issues, so that an incoming Prime Minister whether it's a re-elected government with a newly secured mandate or what polls are looking like a new government under Pierre Poilievre, to actually go in with a solid new mandate and negotiate some of these deals that will have to be dealt with.
What do you think? Is Justin Trudeau as the captain of Team Canada against the Trump administration, up against the Trump administration, Alex?
I don't know. What's William Shatner up to? I think he's a better captain. I think he would have about as much credibility as Justin Trudeau would at leading a mission at this point. The situation here ultimately is that before USMCA is reviewed in summer of 26, we likely will see a government change. So whatever starts now, do we really think that there's going to be, in this political climate, the possibility of putting together a bipartisan or multi-partisan group of people that will be able to carry through an election and continue to work post-election? I think what's most important is think about how do we persuade the Americans? What levers and what motivates them to keep free trade? Not going there and explaining to them why free trade is good for Canada. We need to go and demonstrate and make sure that there are Americans telling the president that free trade is good for them. And I think we're seeing a bit of that, where we might be seeing some provinces doing some advertisements in Washington and trying to make the case to American people, because ultimately American people are going to have to be the ones that are whether it's border governors, governors who have a lot of manufacturing shared with Ontario and Quebec, those kinds of folks, and the individual workers. Getting those people to ask for free trade is going to be a lot more useful than having Justin Trudeau or, frankly, any Canadian asking for it.
Okay, look, we'll stop here. When we come back, I want to pick up on something that our mutual friend Neil Brody said earlier in the week, that maybe we shouldn't even be looking at this through kind of a trade lens, but maybe more of a national security lens, through the lens of the border and illegal immigration. I'd like to pick your brains on that. Mr. Poilievre had some comments about the border today that we'll play for the listeners as well. We'll also talk about Poilievre's use of this phrase, Canada first. Is that a winner? Or is it too Trumpy? When we come back, it's our Newsday panel on News Radio.
Now you know with Rob Snow continues on News Radio.
Our Newsday panel with Jordan Paquette and Alex Creston today. As I mentioned just before we stopped, our good friend Neil Brody said maybe we shouldn't be looking at this through the trade lens. Maybe we should be looking at it through the national security lens. Trump has been really hammering away on things like the illegal drug trade, certainly illegal immigration, the situation at the border. Let's listen a little bit to what Pierre Poilievre had to say about the situation at the border. Go ahead, Dave. Let's play that.
Because the Prime Minister has vacated the border and turned it open to anyone who wants to come in, the premiers are now taking responsibility for our border. Trudeau wants to be in charge of all these provincial areas of jurisdiction, and yet he's not taking care of the one federal job that is most the responsibility of the federal government, which is the border. So we have Quebec sending in the Sûreté du Québec, their police force, to secure the border. Premier Smith, common sense leader, is proposing to use drones, provincial drones, and other police law enforcement measures from her province to secure the borders there. I understand Doug Ford is looking at something similar. So now, because Trudeau has so thoroughly broken the border, we're getting a patchwork of premiers who have no choice but to try and hold the border together with bubble gum, scotch tape, and elastic bands.
Oh my goodness. Okay. I don't know if it's that bad, but my goodness gracious, he knows how to spin a phrase, I guess. But to the point, is the issue really trade or is it border security? What do you think, Alex?
Yeah, look, the last time Donald Trump made a big issue about NAFTA, it was all about the bad deal for American workers. This is entirely predicated on on really what are national security issues, illegal immigration and drugs and other things. I think wouldn't it be great if we had leadership in this country that didn't need to be prompted by threats of tariffs to protect our own country?
Yeah, that was my total thought this morning, reading some of the headlines. Federal government to commit more resources to border security. I'm like, really? It takes this in order
wouldn't it
to?
Be nice if we made this place good for us, rather than always having to respond to somebody else. But that seems like a classic Canadian conundrum.
Jordan, on that, what do you think?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Look, there's been critics pointing this out to the Liberal government for years. Whether it's the issue of Roxham Road in Quebec, whether it was the issue of fentanyl, illegal gun smuggling coming in through the ports of Vancouver, the government just hasn't taken it seriously because they haven't put it as a top priority. National security, border security hasn't been on, it's not his brand. It's not the Trudeau brand. It's not the Liberal brand. It's the whole welcome to Canada, other countries, if you're not there, you're welcome to come here. It's totally fine. So, to both of your points, whoever thought it was going to take Donald Trump to actually force the government of the day here to start taking this issue seriously. So, I agree with our good friend Neil Brody that this is a matter of security. I think it's both. They have effects on the other, but it definitely has everybody talking now. Premiers who normally wouldn't focus on borders as an issue are very much calling on the government to take this seriously.
Okay, we only have about 45 seconds left here. Poilievre's use of the word or the phrase Canada first, is that a winner or too Trumpy? Very quick response from both of you. Alex?
It's a winner.
It's a winner. Okay. All right. It's a winner. Canada first is a winner. Jordan, what would you say?
I'd say it's a winner. Job of any prime minister is to put Canada first. So I don't have any problem with that.
Okay. We'll see. Thank you to both of you. Enjoy the rest of your day. Enjoy your stay on Atlantic Canada's second best island.
Birthplace Confederation. It's the best.
All right. Bye-bye. Yeah. Jordan Piquette in Prince Edward Island today, and in the center of the universe, Toronto, Ontario, Canada, Alex Creston. That's our Newsday panel. Talkback coming up right after the news. A hot topic today. We are going to talk about gun control. A lot of questions that we want to ask you today about gun control and get your thoughts on gun control, gun crime in this country. I'm Rob Snow. This is Now You Know. It's News Radio.
It's time to talk back.
On Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Call now.
And have your say.
1-833-668-2577.
Welcome to Talk Back. 2 hours of debate and discussion on the big issues of the day. Today's topic is gun control. And we have a lot of questions that we want to ask you about guns and gun control. And the reason we want to explore this topic with you today is because gun control, well, it's not really a major news story today. I think it's going to be a big news story in the next week or so. And in fact, I would go so far as to predict that starting next week, there'll probably be quite a few stories in the news media about the state of gun control in Canada. So we kind of want to get out in front of this and start having this discussion today. 1 week from tomorrow is the 35th anniversary of the massacre at École Polytechnique in Montreal. The gunman, a misogynist named Marc Lepine, murdered 14 women. Another 10 women were wounded. 4 men were also wounded. That happened on the 6th of December of 1989. It shocked and it horrified the country. And ever since that happened, around this time of year, gun control becomes a very politically charged issue, even more so than usual. And I would imagine, just based on experience, that next week there will be some news conferences on Parliament Hill about this. Memorials will be held, and the gun control debate is going to come roaring back. And the Liberals are going to say, Those conservatives are in the back pocket of the gun lobby. And the conservatives are going to say the liberals are going after hunters and sports shooters and First Nations, and they're being soft on the gun-toting criminals. And that's going to be the political back and forth. We would like to ask you today some questions about gun control in Canada. Questions like, what does sensible gun control look like for you? How should firearms be regulated in Canada? Do you support or oppose a ban on what the government is calling an assault-style firearms ban? Do you support or oppose a ban on what the government defines as assault-style firearms? On handguns, here's a question for you. Would you support or oppose a total ban on handguns? Would you support a total ban on handguns? Should Canadians even be allowed to own handguns? Gun control activists say no. Nobody should own a handgun in Canada. And would you support or oppose mandatory minimum sentences for people who commit crimes with guns? Look, over these last number of years, the Trudeau Liberals have made many, many promises about gun control. But their promises have disappointed not only gun owners groups in Canada, but also gun control advocates in Canada. Some say the measures from the Trudeau government go too far. Some say they don't go far enough. There are millions and millions of guns in Canada. And there are millions and millions of legal gun owners as well in Canada. The estimate is more than 1 in 4 Canadian households have a firearm. 26%, 1 in 4 Canadian households have a firearm. 3 million Canadian households, at least one gun in the house. Now, the vast majority of those firearms are long guns. About 70% of gun owners say they use their firearms for hunting. About 18% use their firearms for target shooting. 10% of gun owners say, I grew up in a household that always had guns. And that's why I have guns. About 8% are collectors. Less than 5% of Canadian firearm owners say they own their guns for protection, personal protection. Estimates of the total number of guns in Canada vary greatly, from maybe 7 million to more than 10 million. And it is believed that there are slightly more than 1 million legal handguns in Canada. Total number of illegal handguns is anyone's guess. After the 2020 mass shooting in Portapique, Nova Scotia, the Liberals announced a ban on 1,500 assault-style firearms. They then announced there would be an amnesty, and then they extended the amnesty, and the current amnesty period will expire in late October of next year, just around election time. It also had to amend the list of banned firearms because many were common hunting rifles. You may remember the backlash. Also, First Nations groups said they wouldn't support the ban in its original form because so many First Nations people use those firearms for hunting. The government also announced it would launch a gun buyback program that is supposed to begin shortly. It was supposed to start this fall. So far, the government has spent about $67 million and has yet to buy back a single gun. That's just some of the recent history on gun control, and the debate is going to heat up in the coming days. So let's get into it today. Join the discussion. Just answer some of our questions, and we'll see how the conversation goes over the next couple of hours. What does sensible gun control look like for you? Do you support or oppose a ban on what the government calls assault-style firearms? Would you support or oppose a ban on handguns, a total ban on handguns? Canadians shouldn't even be allowed to own handguns. What would you say to that? And would you support or oppose mandatory minimum sentences for people who commit crimes with guns? Our call-in line is 1-833-668-2577, 1-833-668-2577. If you've never called before, just mention that to our call screener. We will make your call a priority. 1-833-668-2577. And let's talk about gun control in Canada. What should that look like, do you think? I'm Rob Snow. This is Now You Know. It's Talkback. The next couple of hours, you're on News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Gun control is the topic. I just want to tell you kind of where I'm coming from with this. Just personally speaking, I don't own any guns, and I have never owned any guns. I have never been hunting. I've never been to a gun range. It was just not part of my upbringing. I've never really had much interest in owning a gun, and that's just me. But if you own guns and you like to hunt or go to the gun range and you follow all the laws, I have no issue with that at all. But that's just me, okay? That's just kind of my own personal experience. 1-833-668-2577. Sean in Calgary. Hi there, Sean. Thanks for calling, Sean. First-time caller, I gather.
Yes, I am. How you doing, sir?
I'm good. I appreciate your call today. What does sensible gun control look like for you, sir?
Honestly, everybody has a very opinion, of course, but for me, sensible gun control is legal ownership, legal storage, legal use. For me, it's more about, sports shooting, target shooting, ownership. I've owned guns for over a decade now. Never ever had any personal issues on my end. It's a combination of things, but I completely disagree with the fact that we're even at this point right now in Canada. We've seen our PM there say one thing years ago about guns and how, Canadians should have the right to legal ownership for whatever their needs are. Some Canadians obviously need it for hunting and safety, depending on where they live out in the woods or in the territories. And then some Canadians, just like myself, enjoy the sense of pride and ownership. I have guns that were passed down from great-grandfathers. It's ridiculous. We've got such poor laws in place right now that contradict what was once said versus what's said now, and we're not strong enough. We're not strong enough.
Let me ask you a few other questions, okay?
Yeah.
So the government, after the terrible mass shooting in Nova Scotia, said we're banning assault-style firearms, 1,500 of them, assault-style firearms. Now, you're a gun owner, I'm not, so you would know more about this than I do. What do you think about that?
Well, when the ban first kind of made headlines and landed on everybody's plate, it was almost comical how they ended up getting to that point. And of course, that's my opinion. If you read through the original handbook, as it were, on which assault-style rifles would be banned, they didn't even do their homework. It was somebody who took out, a guns and ammo magazine and just started circling what they thought was assault-style rifles. Most of the rifles that they banned don't meet any type of requirements. Some don't meet the right type of firing, the right caliper. And at one point, they even banned black rifle coffee just because they have no clue what they were doing to begin with.
Okay. So I have been told that some of the guns that the government tried to ban originally were basically banned for no other reason than they look scary. Would you agree with that?
100%. 100%.
Okay. Okay. Would you support you wouldn't support a total ban on handguns, I suspect, then?
No, I think,
no? Okay.
It's one and the same. It's a terrible thing when we have any type of criminals, commit these crimes, what we've seen there. It's horrible. It's horrible. The government should be focused on bolstering the laws and the punishments associated with them when those type of people commit those crimes.
Would you be in favor of mandatory minimums? We will wrap up on that. Mandatory minimum sentences. Somebody does an armed robbery, 5 years mandatory, something like that?
Something like that. Yeah, absolutely, yeah. Rob. I think these guys out here, because the people who are committing the crimes are not doing it with legally owned guns, whether they're a handgun, assault rifle, doesn't matter what the description is. 99.9% of the time, these are not legally acquired guns. So it doesn't matter how strong the legislation in place to ban law-abiding Canadians from owning them. The bad guys are going to get them, commit the crimes, and do so knowing that we don't even have these minimums in place.
Great call. Thank you for getting us started today. Let's go from Calgary to Dartmouth, Nova Scotia. Tim is there. Hi, Tim. Thanks for calling, Tim.
Hey, Rob. I'm a retired federal police officer.
Okay.
And let's go to the local gun store. And when we're there, I'm going to pick out a 22 semi-automatic Remington rifle, hunting rifle.
Okay.
Then we're going to get that big old, bad old AR-15. Do you know what the difference is between them?
I wouldn't know.
Absolutely nothing.
Okay.
Absolutely nothing. Other than the way they look, the mechanics, exactly the same.
I know the AR-15 is banned. The AR-15 is banned.
I know.
Right.
Yeah, because it looks like an assault rifle. An AR-15 wouldn't last 3 days in battle, if it lasted that long.
Okay.
It is made completely different than an assault rifle. An assault rifle has a 3-selector, 1-shot, semi-automatic, 3-round burst, and fully automatic. That's an assault rifle. And they are rugged. They can take a lot of abuse. An AR-15 or any of those so-called assault rifles wouldn't last 3 days in battle.
Okay, so what do you think about the government's move? You know, it has this list of 1,500 models of what it calls assault-style weapons or firearms.
Oh, it
Scare
looks bad.
tactic?
It looks
Okay.
bad. You know,
Looks bad.
It's no different than a Ford Taurus. Take a Ford Taurus, you get off the showroom, right? And then you take a police interceptor, Ford Taurus. They might look the same on the outside, but they're two different things on the inside. Whereas these assault rifles, they may look different on the outside, but they're the exact same thing on the inside. No need to ban them. We don't have a gun control problem. We have a criminal problem. And I have no problem with 30-day cool down. Do your stuff. Make sure that the person who's wants a weapon isn't insane or
suicidal or threatening their spouse or partner or whatever. Right. Okay. Red flag laws, in other words.
People are normal people. If I had my druthers, I'd be carrying a weapon on me right now. Why? Because I'd rather have it and not need it than need it and not have it. Now, that's special for, police officers, most military or whatever, those who know how to use it.
Okay, Tim, thank you for your call. We are on our way. It is Talkback. We're talking about gun control today. What does sensible gun control look like for you? Lines available, 1-833-668-2577. I'm Rob Snow. It's Talkback on News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
We're talking about gun control today. John in Nova Scotia. Thanks for calling. John, you're on the air. What's your opinion, John?
Well, I think the first two callers, Rob, pretty much summed up how I feel about it. If you use it properly and for what it's used for, I don't have an issue. I think this Trudeau government's gone way, it's just so far out of touch with things.
Okay.
And I don't, as you mentioned, the Porta Pick thing in Nova Scotia was brought up. That was one person. And all the details of that never did come out, never will come out. He was supposedly known by the RCMP. He had weapons, and ammunition.
They were all illegally obtained. He has smuggled them in from Maine.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He had one or two police cars all done up as police cars.
Yes.
I mean, this guy was known. But putting that aside, Rob, again, if it's legal, stored properly, used for what it's used for,
right?
No issue. It's not, as your last caller said, we have a criminal problem. We don't have a gun problem.
What do you think about this? I'm sorry. What do you think about this I mean, the government's making a big deal about this, the gun buyback program and everything. Assault-style firearms, getting those off the streets, 1,500 models. What do you think about that?
I think it's extremely vague.
Extremely vague. Okay. All right.
And on that point of the last time they tried to do the registry, I think it was $2 billion or more was spent. That was scrapped. Now we got
it was
another
a massive boondoggle.
$67 million is gone and not a gun collected. I think a more important question would be asked: where the hell did all that money go?
Right. Okay. Well, it disappeared into the labyrinth of the bureaucracy, I guess, sir. Somewhere in Ottawa. Yeah. Okay.
And you'll be late missing a couple dollars on your income tax, and guess what? They want it back tomorrow.
Oh, they'll follow you to the end of the earth. Yeah, of course, John. Okay, John, thank you. Great, good call, John.
Rob,
sir.
Rob.
Yes.
Here's another interesting thing I wanted to bring up. You walk into your Walmart, not so much Walmart, say your Canadian Tire store, where they sell guns.
Yes.
And you go to the pellet or BB gun section and take a look what's there. They look like assault weapons. They look like handguns.
Okay.
Some kid walking around with one of those is going to find himself in
trouble.
Serious trouble, if not dead.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting points you make. Thank you. Good to hear from you, John. Thank you. All right. Gun control. Lots of opinions on gun control today. Join the conversation. There's a lot to talk about, a lot of different angles we can come at this from. 1-833-668-2577. We're back right after the news on News Radio.
Something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Does sensible gun control look like for you? Do you support or oppose a ban on what the government defines as assault-style firearms? Would you support or oppose a total ban on handguns? Support or oppose a mandatory minimum sentence for someone who commits a crime with a gun? 1-833-668-2577 as we talk about gun control today. Wade, Sylvan Lake, good to hear from you, Wade. What's your opinion here, Wade, today?
How goes it, Rob?
It goes, sir, with or without me.
I hear it's a little cold there. So I gather you know my my point.
Yeah.
Total ban on handguns. What does that mean? Like, is it like, would you categorize that as everybody takes their handguns and gets them chopped up, or?
Yeah.
Oh,
that's
okay.
That's what some gun control advocates are calling for.
Well, I don't agree with any of that. I don't agree with any gun control at all, actually. I believe maybe they should bring back the death penalty.
I don't agree with the death penalty.
If you shoot someone with a gun, you're going down. That's the end of it. And if you commit a crime, like rob a bank with a gun or something like that, 10 years minimum. Mm-hmm. And we need our guns, not that I have any, but we need our guns to protect us from the criminals. And unfortunately, you're going to look at this as some kind of a conspiracy theory, I know. But the way our country is going and the way it's gone in the UK and all over the world, the criminals are our governments. Their puppet masters are the WEF and the WHO and things like that. Yeah. We need to be able to protect ourselves, and the first thing they do when it comes to communism is they take away your guns.
Right. So you think this is I've read about this. This is a common line of thinking that the government is looking to disarm its citizens, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. All right, Wade, I got you. Pretty tough outlook there. I don't agree with some of the things. I'm totally opposed to the death penalty. I just want to get that out. Totally opposed. 100%. unwavering. Paul in Cambridge. Thank you, Paul, for calling. Let's stick to the topic here, though. Gun control. Yes.
Like over 2 million Canadians, I am a legal firearms owner. Right. I have hunting rifles, high-powered hunting rifles that I use if I go out hunting big game. I have shotguns that I would use if I was going migratory bird hunting. I also have the black scary guns that they're talking about. Legally purchased with my money, purchased from a gun shop. It was used in competitions. I shoot a lot in competitions. I shoot trap on a regular basis with a shotgun. I used to shoot what they called a 3-gun match, which was using what they call the AR-style rifle, a handgun, and a shotgun. Okay. I still shoot occasionally on pistol matches. My guns are all legal. They've never been pointed at anyone. I have never broken any laws, and yet the government is attacking legal firearms owners, whereas they're not doing anything about the illegal firearms owners. So I put this to you. I own a vehicle, but there are people out there who are not responsible. They will go out and they will speed, driving high speeds on our highways and even on our city streets. They will get drunk and they will smash into things and kill people. Should they be taking my vehicle away from me because of the irresponsible ones, and in some cases, often we can say the criminal ones? Impaired driving is a criminal charge.
Yes.
Should they be taking my vehicle away because somebody else was a drunk driver and killed somebody?
Okay, let me ask you just specifically, because I'm assuming you'll be affected by this gun buyback program. They will come for your. So, what do you think about this assault-style firearms? What is going on there with that? Do you think?
Well, the assault-style firearms, that's just a term that they use for what they consider a scary black gun. Maybe if we painted it pink, it wouldn't be quite so scary. I do own an AR style firearm. If you're going to be afraid of my hunting rifle, not the AR, because with the hunting rifle, it's a high powered round that will drop a moose. The AR style, typically they're a much smaller caliber. The ones that we use in the civilian market here in Canada they're no different than any other semi-automatic rifle, except for the color and the style of it. And the style of it is based on the ease of operation in a match, for reloading, for what we call running and gunning. We shoot on the move, shooting at paper targets, clay targets, things like that. Okay. We aren't shooting at people. Okay. Okay. I have one. It's been locked up in my safe for the last couple of years that I can't even take it out. I also have handguns. Now, they talk about buying back the so-called scary black guns. My handguns, I am old, I am retired, I'm getting close to the end of my life. And when I die, the government is going to seize, without compensation, any handguns that I own, because they have made it illegal to transfer a handgun.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So okay. All right. We're out of time. And I think I've been generous in listening to you, Paul. I really thank you in sharing your perspective from an avid gun owner. It is good to hear that perspective today. Getting a lot of that today. 1-833-668-2577. 1-833-668-2577. Gun control is the topic today. If you have a counter opinion, I'd love to hear it. Open for it. Have your say. That's why we do Talkback on News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now. Hello. 1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
What does sensible gun control look like, in your opinion? Let's go to Jeff, a first-time caller from Halifax. Thanks for calling, Jeff. Good to hear from you.
Hello,
What's your
Rob.
opinion?
How are you?
Yes, I'm good, sir. Thank you.
That's good.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I think that the legislation that's been passed, it hasn't gone far enough. I think that airsoft guns, paintball guns, squirt guns, maybe even finger guns should be banned as well.
Okay.
Suns out, guns out, you know that. I think that should be banned as well.
Okay. Is that sarcasm I smell?
It is a very sarcastic comment.
Yeah,
I followed quite closely the Mass Casualty Commission here in Nova Scotia, following the mass shooting, the deadliest shooting in Nova Scotia's history and Canadian history.
Yes.
And believe it or not a single one of the weapons that were used by the mass perpetrator were legally owned guns. They were illegally imported weapons. And I know that's just an anecdotal piece of evidence, but that is too often the case where individuals, they lack the moral compass, they lack the moral fortitude to do the right thing, and increasing regulation, increasing legislation to penalize these individuals isn't going to deter the person that already is lacking the moral compass.
Yeah,
So
the perpetrator in that, if you read Paul Palango's book on it, he actually 2 mass shootings, really, one the first day and one the second day. He had 5 firearms on him when he was finally taken out by the police at that gas station, all obtained illegally. Smuggled his guns into Canada from the United States. He quite often went through the border, the state of Maine into New Brunswick. There have always been lots of questions about how he was constantly able to do that, to smuggle those guns across that border. But it's just one of the many leftover questions of that. This ban on assault-style firearms. What do you think about this move from the government? I think you're going to be hearing a lot about this next week. I'm just kind of planting it right now.
Yeah, I think that the term is unfortunate. Like I think that the term sounds scary, and that will get some backing by those that want to see safer gun laws or more restrictive gun laws. But I don't think that defining certain weapons as assault-style weapons does anything to provide any amount of safety to Canadians. I think that what society needs to do, and it is a difficult thing, and I am gathering some of this from the Mass Casualty Commission, is reporting those that do illegal things with their weapons. It was well known that the perpetrator in the Mass Casualty Commission had done some illegal things, had weapons, had the mocked-up police car, and a lot of people knew that was wrong, but never did anything about it. And it's unfortunate, and I know it. You can seem to be the rat or something like that, but for the law to work, the police need to know when the law is broken, and it needs to be prosecuted. And I think that is what should be emphasized. Just quickly on the mandatory minimum sentences, I'm not in favor of those. I do think that there is possibly a constitutional issue. Actually, I think our courts have dealt with this a little bit in knocking down many of the mandatory minimal sentences on the charter value of proportionality. And I think that is a good reason. It's not that what might have been the mandatory minimum sentences on various crimes a perpetrator shouldn't experience that level of punishment, but I do think all the circumstances need
You would
to be
like the
taken into
discretion left with the judge? Is that what you're saying?
Yes. Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Fair enough.
The ones that
you make some very interesting points. You've obviously been following things very closely. Thank you, Jeff. Great to hear from you today. To Cambridge, let's go to Tom in Cambridge. Hi, Tom.
Hi there, Rob. I'm not a gun owner. I've known some people own guns, but I do. You have to. What is the definitive style assault weapon? Is it an AK-47? Is it an M16? Is it a weapon used?
I
by
can
the
tell
military?
you how the legislation defines it. Bill C-21, which is the most recent
So
piece
is
of
it vague
legislation.
and ambiguous, or does it really define?
I can read it to you word for word right from the
Sure.
bill, sir. I have it right in front of me. It is a
All right.
non-handgun firearm that discharges center fire ammunition in a semi-automatic manner, was originally designed with a detachable magazine that holds at least 6 cartridges.
Okay, well,
that is
all
an
right,
assault-style firearm, according to the
I don't really
legislation.
if you're a hunter, I don't see why you would want to have an M16 or an AK-47. If you're a sports shooter and you want to go to a gun range, again, if you're a legal gun owner and you're a responsible gun owner, I think we're going a little too far and go to the extreme here. To one of your callers prior to me, that when he was trying to use the example of cars and that, well, we all pay for other people's bad driving habits with our insurance rates going up, or for impaired drivers and that, and it's not based on our driving records, it's based on claims from insurance companies and even your postal code area about the crime rate in your area and that. But if you're a responsible gun owner, you're taking the right procedures and methods to protect your guns and that. The illegal guns are the ones that are coming across the border, are the ones that really we should be paying the attention to. I think you should have mandatory sentences for guns, illegal guns used, not a minimum, but a mandatory sentence. I really would support that.
Okay. Thank you, Tom, for your call today in Cambridge. We'll stop here. When we come back, we'll go to Calgary, back to Nova Scotia before the top of the hour. If you're on the line right now, you will be on the air as we talk about gun control today. 1-833-668-2577. I'm Rob Stone. This is News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
On gun control, Chris in Calgary. Thanks for calling, Chris. What's your opinion here, Chris?
Hey, top of the morning to you, Rob.
Yeah, good to hear
I've got a unique perspective from this. Like, I am a new gun owner. I've gone through the whole process from doing the gun safety course and acquiring my first firearm to going hunting for the first time this year. And I've done it all within the last year.
Wow.
And I got to say that going through the process, being that I've never owned a gun before this, I'm finding that a lot of the stuff that the people are saying on both sides of the story just aren't really factual. Like, I bought my first range membership, and whether I'm at my range or at somebody else's range, or even just with other people shooting on Crown land, that I have never found a group of people, even people I don't know and met randomly, that are more responsible. They take gun ownership incredibly seriously.
Yes.
I like, to the point that I think that they're going overboard, but at the same time, I think that in this culture that we have in Canada right now, it's required to go overboard, because if you don't, that one little step gives the anti-gun movement that much more, for lack of a better term, firepower to get rid of guns. With everything that I've gone through, I think that there are ways that we can beef up our gun control and do it in a smart way, rather than just banning guns.
Okay, give me an idea on that. Give me an idea.
Well,
like
sure.
What?
One of the ideas that I've floated to friends of mine about this is that when it comes to mass shootings, a lot of them, not all of them, but I mean, a lot of them are at schools, and it's even younger people that are doing it. And when you go through the whole process of getting your gun and getting a police background check, that's all they're doing is checking your background. And when you're, 16, 17, 18 years old, a lot of people don't have anything to check. And so one of the things I floated to friends of mine and other people is, as part of the background check that we're already paying for anyways, is there should be something along the lines of a psychological check that goes along with it that we would pay for as well as part of gun licensing. Where you actually go and see a psychiatrist for half an hour and pay like $100 or something, and the psychiatrist checks in with you, and you do that every time you renew your license as well, so every 5 years. And maybe that can help with some of these issues that are coming up where, guns are a big issue and stuff like that. But like I say, I don't agree with the gun ban because, like I say, the gun owners that I know it's anecdotal evidence. It's me.
Yep.
But every single one of them, without question, every single one has been the most responsible people I've met when it comes to gun usage.
Right.
You know, there's.
Let me ask you, Chris. Let me ask you just while I have you on the line. How old are you?
How old am I? I am 45.
45.
Yeah.
What makes somebody at 45 decide I'm going to go buy a gun and start hunting? What prompted that? I'm just curious.
It was my 13-year-old daughter, of all people.
Really?
She asked questions about guns after a news story.
Okay.
And I took her and I said, well, you know what? Before we do anything, why don't we go learn about it? And so I took her to a gun range and we met up with a firearm safety officer.
Yeah.
And he taught us a bunch of stuff and he took us out to the range and we shot a bunch of different guns, from ARs to handguns to sporting rifles and hunting rifles. And
interesting.
It was because of her that we took it all, because she took the interest in it, and so we've just gone down the road together.
There you go. Okay, interesting. Thank you for your perspective. That's hour number one. YouTube, that's hour number one of Talkback. Flew by, didn't it? Hour number two just ahead after the latest breaking news on News Radio.
It's time to talk back.
On Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Call now.
And have your say.
1-833-668-2577.
Topic today for the Talkback is gun control and what sensible gun control would look like, in your opinion, and whether you support or oppose this ban on what the government is calling assault-style firearms. What about a ban on handguns? What about mandatory minimum sentences for people who commit crimes with guns? Let's get right back to the phones. 1-833-668-2577. Dana in Nova Scotia. Thanks for calling, Dana. You're on the air. What's your opinion?
My opinion is, first of all, I want to say kudos to the last guy who called. You never hear the mental health issue put into the equation when it comes to firearm safety. You got to be a messed up individual to want to hurt somebody. And then second of all, like I want to use an analogy here. Too often the tool gets blamed. So I'll use a work situation as an example. You have somebody using a table saw or chop saw, chops their finger off. You blame the user, not the tool. Why isn't that same equation put to firearms? Yes, they're a tool used for certain things. I'm a sports shooter. I hunt. I target shoot, and I pass that on to my children. I was raised that way. But you never hear that equation put into it, where you're always blaming the tool and not the user. Because you could put a loaded firearm on a table, point it directly at you, and nothing's going to happen until it is put into a person's hand. But you never hear that. And I'm just wondering what other people...
I think you do hear that. I think you do hear that from gun advocates. Guns don't guns don't kill people. People kill people. Right? That's an old line.
Yeah,
the gun
but you
control
never
debate,
hear the mental health equation put into it. And I fully agree with the last guy that called with, hey, when you go to renew your license, maybe you should renew your mental health check too. I think it's great. We are all stable until we're not. And I can understand that fear, but if there was more care taken to monitor people's mental state when it comes to firearms, I think we would have less problems. And on top of that, a criminal is going to be a criminal. You're not going to stop them from having guns. So why penalize law-abiding citizens?
Right. Okay, so I would really like your take as a gun owner on this ban that the government keeps touting on assault-style firearms. What is your opinion on that, sir?
I have one. What is an assault-style firearm? I could walk up and say my fist is an assault-style fist. It's just a moniker, a term used to scare people.
Well, there's a definition in the bill. Can I read it again, if you don't mind?
Sure, go ahead.
Because they had to define it, right? What is an assault-style firearm? A non-handgun firearm that discharges center-fire ammunition in a semi-automatic manner and was originally designed with a detachable magazine that holds at least 6 cartridges.
I think it's fear politics. You're just using scary words to scare people because, again, anything can be used in an assault style, period. Anything. You could pick up a rock, and that's an assault-style rock. You could put that moniker on anything, in my opinion. It's just a way to scare people so that they fall in line. In my opinion.
Thank you, Dana, for your call. Yep, good to hear from you. Yeah, I mean, the government is still insisting that this covers more than 1,500 models of firearms in Canada. It had an amnesty in place, then it extended it again, and now this amnesty is supposed to be in place, until they start buying back the guns, until October 30th of 2025. But of course, there's probably going to be an election before then, so who really knows? But there was a lot of criticism about the ban on what the government calls assault-style firearms. Some of you might remember the tweet that went viral from Carey Price, the great goaltender for the Montreal Canadiens, who basically said, I'm a hunter, not a criminal, and he's Indigenous. And then the Assembly of First Nations had a big meeting and a vote, and the leadership voted against this, saying we won't be told by the Crown that people can't use these firearms because they use them all the time to go hunting in their traditional territory. So the government had to climb down on that and I guess come up with this new list. But it's still 1,500 models, they say. Firearm designed and manufactured on or December 15th, 2023 that meet the following criteria will be prohibited. A firearm that is not a handgun, discharges center fire ammunition in a semi-automatic manner, was originally designed with a detachable cartridge magazine with a capacity of 6 cartridges or more. Prohibited in Canada. Gun control. Rick in Dartmouth. Thanks for calling, Rick. Hi, Rick.
If you're a steak, I have an assault-style knife in my kitchen.
Right.
It's the craziest thing to use the word style to describe anything. It really, as many of your callers have said, it really lays bare the terrible argument that the government has made. Here's an example of just one story. My father gave me a single-shot shotgun that was his father's, and I'm 72, so that we're going back to the 1920s, teens or 20s. That this gun was used for hunting ducks, which was part of the family's food source on a rural farm in New Brunswick. And it's never been fired by me. I don't even... Anyway, what ended up happening was probably in the 70s or maybe early 80s, it got put behind a large wardrobe. And that just sat there for, I don't know, until they had the long gun registry. But of course, I'd forgotten completely that it was even there. So we can really trust the government to do the right thing, because the long gun registries wasted I don't know how many billions of dollars, and then it was banned. It was removed completely, and now a similar thing has come along. So the next government may completely remove what they're doing now with the amnesty and all of that. So it's disingenuous to a fault, and most of your callers are dead on correct.
All right. Thank you, Rick in Dartmouth. We'll stop here and be right back and take more of your calls as we talk about gun control today in Canada. I'm Rob Snow. This is Talkback, hour number 2 on a Thursday. 1-833-668-2577. 1-833-668-2577. Couple of lines there available. Wait won't be too long. Join the discussion, will you? This is News Radio.
Something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
We're talking about gun control today with Jerry in Waterloo. Jerry, you're on the air. Share your opinion, please, Jerry. Go ahead.
Good afternoon, Rob. I am a legal gun owner, like a lot of the other callers, and I agree with a lot of the statements made. Unfortunately, the average Canadian doesn't understand, and they're not telling them what we have to go through to not only get your license and to purchase firearms, but even to maintain it. One of the things is our names get run through the CPIC every single day to see what kind of trouble we may or may not have gotten into yesterday.
And what is that, sir?
The CPIC? That is a complete background. A criminal record check every day. Every gun
day.
owner in this country, every 24 hours, it's automated.
Wow.
And the issue isn't the gun owners. You could talk to law enforcement and that. It's not us. We're on their radar. They can see what we do. They know what we have. Unfortunately, and in your last caller was dead on. It's the tool. They always blame the tool, but it's the user. And like, you turn on the news, and like being in Ontario, I'm not sure if you heard what took place on the 401 Tuesday morning.
Oh yes, sir. Yes, sir. You got a guy's walking down the 401 and he's shooting at cars, and it's come out today. We managed to dig this up at City News. The guy's got a rap sheet, this long, out on bail, the whole thing, right? Yeah.
Over and over and over again. Yeah, I got off the 401 300 meters before I was moments away from that disaster.
My
and. And you listen to the people that T-boned the transit bus last week. Half the people in that vehicle were just recently released on bail. It's an unfortunate. I think it's us legal gun owners are getting tired of being blamed and the finger pointed at us. And like, we are among the most responsible people. We know what we have, and we do not want to lose it. We know that there are people out there looking for the first mistake for one of us to make to use it. The sort of the name that they put on assault style is very misleading. And we've had assault weapons banned in this country since the 70s. They've been prohibited and banned since the 70s,
yes, sir.
assault weapons.
Yeah, these things, people are bringing up AK-47, M6. You can't, like, those are prohibited weapons already, right? So,
Yes, we can't own those. And so
not allowed, yeah.
The problem is it's these people that this catch and release. Like, life isn't, we're not living in a fish pond here where you catch and put it back, catch it tomorrow. Like, we're dealing with people's lives, and I don't know what it's going to take. I mean, this poor person that yesterday in Toronto is driving. Next thing, he's got a gun pointed at him, gets shot because, this, and it's just over and over and over again. And I don't know what it's going to take. Like, Justin, is it going to be one of your family and loved ones that gets injured
let's hope not.
by one of these people? Yeah. No, I don't want to win anybody. But what is it going to take to finally address the real problem? It's not the legal gun owners. It's these criminals that they catch today, out tomorrow, back in tomorrow, the day after, and then out over and over again.
Okay.
And
thank you, Jerry. Thank you for your call. Yeah, I think Jerry makes such a great point. I think it's totally fair and reasonable to ask if the gun control policies being proposed by the current government are actually working. It's a completely fair question. You could have asked the same question back in 2015 when Mr. Trudeau was running on legalizing marijuana. It's a totally fair question to say, is the law working as intended? I think in the case of the prohibition of marijuana, I think that was a law on the books that clearly was not working because 4 million people were willing to break the law on an almost daily basis and put themselves at great risk to do so. When it comes to gun crime and gun control, are the government's policies actually working? As to the previous caller's point, the gun crime happening in the streets of Canada's biggest city has been a terrible year in the Toronto area. Armed gunmen committing violent home invasions, armed gunmen doing carjackings, and many times teenagers when they catch the guys, and they're almost always guys. And almost always, they've been in trouble before. They've committed crimes with guns before, or they've been accused of committing a gun crime before and let out on bail. We had the news story from our colleagues at City News, home invasion in Mississauga. This was just a couple of days ago. The Peel Regional Police busted 2 guys. They broke into a home with guns. Sounded like there's a young child and a babysitter or something in the home. They tie them up, they rob the place, and then they take off. And some other guy's driving the getaway car. He got away. So you have now you have a 29-year-old guy. He was already under a court order, not allowed to own any firearms. He was actually living in what is described in the news story as a federal parole facility, David. He was living in the parole facility. Okay, just got out, living in the parole facility. Had already been convicted of armed robberies before. He'd been sentenced to 4 years. So now he's busted again. The other guy was supposed to be wearing one of these monitoring bracelets. And he's charged 3 counts failing to comply with a release order, convicted of several gun crimes in the past. And, you know, the revolving door continues with our justice system. Be right back. Take more of your calls. I'm Rob Snow. It's Talkback here on News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
On gun control, let's go to John. Is in Calgary. Hi there, John. You're on the air. Go ahead. What's your opinion here, John?
Hey, Rob. How are you doing today?
I'm good, John. Thank you. Go ahead.
So this is just a little sidebar, same topic, but sidebar.
Yeah.
We'd all agree that Mexico, there's an extreme violence happening there with massive problems with guns, correct?
Yes, I would agree. Yes.
Do you know how many gun stores are in the whole country of Mexico?
No idea. No.
2.
2. Okay. All right.
There's only 2 legal gun stores in all of Mexico. The problem that Mexico has is the same problem we have. The guns aren't coming from here, and they're not coming from Mexico. They're coming from the U.S.
Right.
There's a manufacturer back in the day that used to make a gun called the Tech 9, and it was famous. It was advertised in like High Times and magazines like that. And their claim to fame was that their guns were fingerprint resistant.
Oh, okay.
And it's a little like Uzi style gun. That manufacturer and other manufacturers in California have a loss rate, a shrink rate of 20%. So 20% of their inventory disappears.
Wow.
that you got to ask yourself, if I'm running a business and I have a 20% shrink rate, I'm not going to be in business for very long. So how are these companies in business?
Well,
like,
what's your guess?
The problem for us and for Mexico and for other countries is our biggest trading partner to the south, who was talking about our borders and how unsecure our borders are. And they're the ones that are sending us these things. When I lived in California, I went to a gun show. Well, I used to go to them all the time. I am a gun owner. I like guns. And I was offered to buy like an assault-style weapon. I said, sorry, I can't buy one. I'm Canadian. I don't have a license here in the U.S. To which the gentleman's answer to me was, you don't need a license. This is a gun show. You can buy everything here except the minigun, but everything else, including the tank, you can buy, and I don't even need to take a driver's license.
Crazy.
Yeah, and that's getting imported here to Canada. Like, the people here in Canada that own guns are not the problem. It's the people that are bringing the guns over the border.
Okay. Yeah, you've outlined it very well. I could not do any better than that. Thank you so much for your call, John in Calgary. Thank you. To Rob, also in Alberta today. Hi, Rob.
Hi, Rob. How are you? Hey, listen,
I'm good. Yes.
That last comment from John, or comments from John, were so smack on, and aligns basically with what I wanted to say too. And you can go to gun shows, and matter of fact, they're getting prices for guns that they're close to, if not even equal, in some cases, to new guns at like Bass Pro or one of the gun outlets. That's the interesting part of this. And if in the rural part of Canada, I'd be surprised if there's very few people. It'd be a small percentage of people that don't have guns, and I'm saying not just gun, but guns. And
yes.
In Alberta, we're approximately 45% of all of Canada as far as beef raising goes, and there's a lot to do with protection. But this particular policy that the government's bringing out, it's working in more than one way. What it's done is it's driven everybody underground, or just about everybody. And since they can't get anything for their guns, the government wants to scoop them. What they're doing is they're selling anything off. Okay, that if they were legal, and registered and went through the safety courses, etc., they're getting rid of them because they want to save what they got invested. And so, yeah, it's working in more ways than one.
And not as intended, by the sounds of things.
What's that
Thank
again?
you. Not as intended. It's not working as intended. Yeah, Rob, thank you. Thank you. Back right after the news. The latest breaking news next on News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Great conversation today about gun control and what sensible gun control would look like, and the government definition of assault-style firearms and the ban on what the government calls assault-style firearms, where we've also been talking about handguns and mandatory minimum sentences for people who commit gun crimes. We've been coming at it from all kinds of angles. Let's go to Brent in Calgary. Hi there, Brent. Hi, Brent.
How are you doing?
I'm good, Brent. Thank you for calling. What's your opinion here on gun control?
Well, I'd just like to comment on the guy that said that you don't need an assault-style gun to hunt. And I'd like to say he's right. But some people like to hunt with sporting rifles. Like, I hunt with an AR-15 style sporting rifle. It's 30 caliber. It's non-restricted. It's perfectly legal, and I like to use that gun. I don't want to use an old-fashioned, bolt action. I like using a sporting rifle for hunting, and I just wanted to say there's nothing wrong with that.
Okay, so again, I don't own any guns. I don't go hunting. I outlined that before, but so the firearm that you own, would it fall under this definition of an assault style firearm as outlined by the government? Are you subject to the gun buyback?
I don't know. I mean, it's an AR-15 variant, right? But it's I'm not using it to assault anybody. I'm just using it for my own, my own hunting experience.
Right. Well, I don't think that's going to matter much to the government, because it plans on, banning 15. It says 1,500 models, including the AR-15. So I would imagine it must include the variants of that model, right?
It does, but these gun manufacturers, they just make new models that don't fall under the definition of what the government's labeled as a prohibited device.
Okay.
And then it doesn't matter how many laws they're going to make to ban certain styles of guns. The gun manufacturers literally will just change a few things on the receiver or the bolt carrier, whatever it happens to be, and it'll fall under a new classification of non-restricted, which anyone can buy who has a gun license. So they spend all this time banning, and labeling certain styles of firearms. It really, in the end, it doesn't make any difference. The gun manufacturers, especially the ones in Canada, are just going to adapt to the laws that are written and make a model that falls outside of those definitions.
Okay. That's interesting, because the gun control groups, I suspect you'll hear from some next week, they don't like this gun control law as it's written because they don't think it's restrictive enough. And they say even if the government buys back all of these guns, supposed to be 150,000 guns or something, they say people are just going to take the money, they'll go buy a similar firearm that isn't on the list of banned firearms or something new that comes along. So
I 100% agree with that, and that's exactly what I'd do.
Isn't that interesting?
If they were going to buy back my guns, right?
Right. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
Brent, good to hear from you. Yeah. Lonnie is up next also in Alberta today. Hi, Lonnie.
Hey, Rob. How's it going?
Good, Lonnie. Thank you. Your opinion, please. Yeah, I hear you just fine, Lonnie. Go ahead. Yep.
Okay, good. So, hey, listen, first of all, I agree with tons of the callers. Like, they all got their opinions, and they're mostly right. The thing I want to hear, Rob, is I want to hear from some of your female listeners. I want to hear some women's opinion on this. You know what I'm saying?
Okay. Well, I
really
thought that this topic today would kind of skew toward men, and it certainly has. We have not had one woman call yet today, but why would you like to hear from women today?
Because I think I just appreciate what the women say and what the women think too, right? Like I don't want to base any judgments or anything on what a woman says or anything like that, but I do want to hear their opinion and what they say, because every guy that's called in is guaranteed married to a woman. And they might have their own opinion on guns. Like my wife, I'm a gun owner, and my wife isn't fancy on the guns by any means.
Mm-hmm.
But she accepts the fact that accepts the fact that I own guns and appreciate them. So I do want to hear from, I push your female listeners to call in right away and give us your opinion and tell us what you think of gun laws and how they should be dealt with.
Well, I'll tell you right now, we've had this conversation in our house, actually. My wife is totally against any kind of gun ownership. I live in a rural area. Lots of people go hunting around here. Lots of shops around here selling all kinds of firearms, hunting-related equipment. And I've thought from time to time about getting a gun, maybe a long gun, just one of them. Because I live in a rural area, I sometimes wonder how long would it take the police to get here if somebody broke into the home, meant us some harm or something. And my wife is totally opposed to it. Whenever she shuts it down right away. And she probably makes some sense. And I come to the conclusion I've made it to my early 50s without needing a gun. I probably don't need one now. But I have thought about it from time to time.
Well, I don't think any of us really, in Canada, we don't really need a gun. We do it because we like it. We do it because we can. We do it because we can buy it, right?
Yeah. Okay, interesting.
Yeah.
Okay,
Anyway,
we'll make the appeal. Well, yeah, I appreciate you making the appeal. And, we'll see if any women want to call in. Of course, anybody can call in. 1-833-668-2577. 1-833-668-2577. We will stop here. Lania, thank you for your call today. And be right back on the phones. When we come back, we're talking about guns, gun control, gun crime in Canada on Talkback on News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
On gun control, we have a call from a woman, Dinara. Dinara, hi there.
Hi, Rob. How's it going?
You're answering the call, Dinara. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. What do you think about gun control?
I had to call.
Okay, go ahead. Why?
I have a husband, and my family is very pro-gun. Just like for hunting purposes or leisure purposes. I'm from rural Alberta, so actually I got my first gun maybe a year ago. It was super fun. We went to the shooting range and got to try out a few different guns. So definitely a very pro-gun household and pro-gun myself now, especially because of the statistics. If you look at the statistics, pretty much all the statistics point to that gun crime is done primarily by unregistered firearms. So that meaning illegal firearms that are obtained illegally.
Right.
So not your people that go out and, the do-gooders of society that go out and get their gun license and obtain the gun legally and follow the laws behind the guns. It is illegal guns that commit crimes. Primarily. So yeah, and it's mostly handguns. It's not even, I don't even know what an assault rifle is. AR means Armalite rifle. It's a brand. It's not a type.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like AR does not stand for assault rifle. So
well, I mean, most of the callers today are saying they're just trying to scare people. That they're banning scary-looking guns, even though these guns do the same as a lot of traditional hunting rifles. That seems to be the consensus from my callers today.
I would say that's definitely correct. When I went to the gun range, they actually showed me the guns that were to be banned. Not the guns, but the certain parts of the gun that were going to be banned.
Okay.
And I mean, when you look at like a traditional hunting rifle, like with the Armalite profile, they can be a multitude. You can have like a wooden stock rifle, which like somebody looked at it and they'd be like, "Oh, that's not scary." But as soon as it's painted black, and it's an Armalite rifle, they're going to immediately say it's a tactical, assault rifle when it's not. It's an Armalite rifle.
When the two firearms operate the same way, right?
Depending on, I guess, because all guns are customizable, right? Like you can have the Armalite platform and have different attachments to the gun. From what I know, I'm not trying to be an expert at it, but from what I've conjured up from people telling me and actually been shown, what they want to ban is just kind of ridiculous. You're going to have people that are, I hate to say it, but making it illegal to have, this said platform of gun is not going to cut down on gun crime. If majority of the crimes are committed.
So let me ask you one final question. You grew up in a house with guns and like a family that was pro-gun. Were you always that way, or are you a kind of a convert, or were you just always that way, kind of thing? Or
shockingly, my husband's family is the pro-gun. I actually came from a family that didn't own any guns except for my grandfather. I originally used to be like against guns to some degree. I used to be like, oh, why would you need it? You know what I mean? If you're not hunting, why do you need it? But I have vastly changed my opinion. That was when I was 18. I'm 26 now, so I would hope I get wiser over the years and change my views when presented.
Think how smart you'll be when you get my age. Okay, thank you.
Oh my goodness.
I really appreciate your call. No, thank you for answering that appeal to our previous caller.
No worries.
Lonnie, good to hear from you. All right, let's go to Topaz on the line, also from Calgary today. Hi, Topaz.
Hi there. How are you?
I'm good. Thanks for calling, sir. On gun control, what are your opinions about what's going on?
I've been listening to everybody and a bunch of my neighbors from Calgary as well, and I share their mentality on it. I used to grow up, I grew up in a no-gun environment, and as I'm growing, getting older, got a daughter now that's going to go to high school pretty soon, I am becoming pro-gun. But what government is doing right now is just not common sense law. Like the girl before me was saying, yes, you're banning a part of the gun. If you're not nipping the bud at the source where the illegal guns are coming in and not handling the criminals properly, this is not going to do anything. It's either no gun or all guns on everybody's hand, like no gun like Europe is doing and all guns like Mexico, U.S. is doing, right? So I feel like the times are changing. So I have my handgun operating training and everything. I did that recently. And the way being in Calgary, there was zero to no gun violence here before. And recently, when I'm hearing that they're shooting literally like 1.5 kilometers away from my house on a shopping strip mall, I am becoming pro-gun. But yeah, assault rifles and all that, I agree with all the other callers. It does not make any sense. You go hunting in Canada, it's fun.
Your conversion into being more pro-gun is over issues of personal safety? You fear for your... Really?
Yes,
wow.
Not even just
and you
daughter.
Never felt like that before. You never felt like that. No,
I've been in this city for 26 years now. I heard about it, but the way Toronto has gone downhill, the whole area where the guns are coming in, where the guns are flowing into Calgary, I hear horror stories from people. One of my friend's neighbor's house got shot up a couple months ago, I think, and they moved. But moving is not a solution. Government is not doing anything. Police came and talked to them, but unless Canadian Tire starts selling bulletproof vests, I'm not feeling safe. So my daughter is gonna carry pepper spray to school, and if things keep going downhill, she's gonna have a gun. I'm gonna teach her properly how to use it.
Holy cow! Okay, Topaz, that's quite a story. Thank you
for
your call. All right, we'll be back. Take a few more calls and then wind this Thursday Talkback down for the day. I'm Rob Snow. It's News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
On gun control, let's go to Luke. Hi, Luke. You're on the air. What's your opinion, Luke?
How are you, Rob?
I'm good, Luke. Thanks. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to call in quick. That one guy was wife would call if she could. So if I could be so bold as to tell you what she would think is, I don't own a gun, but she does.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, she owns a gun. She uses it for sport. She likes doing. She joins. There's a lot of women. I'm surprised more women's in calling because she's part of a pretty large female gun club.
Okay.
And yeah, she has no problem of it. She likes owning it for sport. We do kind of share the concern of that last caller, just for personal safety with the way things have been going, the lack of police presence now. It just seems like criminals aren't afraid of the police anymore. They're getting more brazen.
Okay.
And more bold, especially in Ontario there. The police going, just leave your fob at the front door for them.
Right. Yeah.
Right? So that's kind of, not something we want. And it's not like you're going to grab the gun and try and clear the house like you're a military person. But, it's just nice to be able to grab the kids, get into a room, close the door, barricade it, and call the police, right?
Right.
And have something to defend yourself with.
Okay. So with your wife, it's a handgun she has, or handguns, or?
No, shotgun.
Oh, shotgun. Okay. All right. Okay.
Yeah, shotgun's better for personal safety than a handgun, is what we believe, anyways.
All right.
Again,
because
you're barricading yourself in, and you have a weapon that can just spray, right? You're not grabbing your handgun and going through the house like you're some military personnel knows how to clear a house, right?
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Okay, Luke, that's interesting. Thank you. I want to fit in one more before we hit the news at the top and call it a day on Now You Know. Brad. Hi, Brad.
Hey, how are you?
I'm good, Brad. Thanks.
Yeah, I'm good. I am shocked that the last couple callers actually. Wow. I don't know if they're having loaded firearms in their house already, waiting for someone to break in their house. I think that is why we have gun control. Concerns me. Goes with my question, and not aside from those callers. I have yet to see, maybe it was brought up, I have yet to see a stat on a violent gun crime with a legally owned firearm owner. We know about all the illegal firearms. I have yet to see a stat about what kind of gun crimes has happened by a legal gun owner with their legally obtained firearm.
Well, I think the big issue when it comes to guns legally purchased is certainly domestic violence is a big concern.
Okay. And guns are used during this domestic violence?
Well, yes. It's a leading cause of femicide, sir.
Okay.
Is women killed by their partners with long guns, typically.
With
legal long guns.
With their own legally bought firearm.
In the house. Yes.
Okay. Because every news article I come across, it's all about guns coming across the border.
Yeah. Well, this is why I just wanted. I'm glad you raised that, because I did want to bring that up, because it's one of the few things that I actually agree with when it came to the most recent gun control legislation C-21. There is finally some legitimate red flag law in Canada about this, and prohibition orders, and seizing the firearms and taking away the licenses for people, for example, who are under restraining orders, who may be at risk of committing suicide or a femicide. I thank you for all your calls. Very informative today. Learned a lot. Friday free for all Talkback hour tomorrow on News Radio.